Hey, it's Matt Haynes, and today I am testing out the CAD Audio Equitek E40 condenser microphone. Now, you would be forgiven for thinking that, hey, looking at this microphone, it looks very similar to the E100SX. It's got the same format, it's the same shape, that same ice cream sandwich shape, but it is a very different microphone. It's different in terms of sound, it's different in terms of the way it's built, and it's different in the price point as well. Unlike the more expensive E100SX, this is not considered a large diaphragm condenser microphone. It's more of a medium diaphragm condenser microphone. That is really hard to say. Like the 100SX, it does have two switches. You have a 10 dB pad, and you also have a high pass filter or a low roll-off filter if you prefer, at 100 Hertz. So we should probably test that out right now. You are now listening to the E40 with the high pass filter engaged, and if you are listening with headphones, you might hear a little bit of low end roll off, and if you're listening on your phone speaker, you probably don't hear anything. I can hear a little bit in my headphones. And now we're back to normal. The high pass filter is no longer engaged. This is just the normal microphone sound. Now you'll notice that I'm talking sort of off to the side of the microphone. And I'm doing that because condenser microphones are usually very sensitive to plosive sounds. So if I talk to the side, I'm firing those P sounds, those B sounds at your face, but not at the microphone. So we probably should do a plosive test just to hear how it sounds. Now I'll do one aiming off to the side. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Now this is going to be right directly on the microphone. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Yeah, so as you can hear, typical of condenser microphones, they don't like peas thrown at them. I do also have a pop filter here, and this is brand new from CAD Audio, and it does a nice job. I used it on the E100SX. I'm going to use it on the E40 as well. Because this is such an unusual microphone shape, it's really hard to find third-party pop filters for it, but this fits it, obviously, perfectly. Now, the microphone out of the box did not come with this pop filter, but I highly recommend getting one if you are doing any sort of vocal work, voice work, because not only is it going to prevent plosives, but also it keeps the spit and the grunge and stuff off your diaphragm, and it's just going to keep your microphone alive that much longer. Okay, here we go. Plosive test with the pop filter. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So I'm going to keep the pop filter on for the time being. Now, of course, with a cardioid microphone, actually, I believe this is a hypercardioid microphone. Hang on a sec. Excuse me, it has a supercardioid polar pattern. But whether it's cardioid, supercardioid, hypercardioid, these kinds of microphones, they have a proximity effect. So when you get really close to the microphone, you get that really robust low frequency going on. So let's do that. I am speaking very, very close to the microphone here. The pop filter is certainly going to help, and also the proximity effect is at maximum now. Now the E40 with this ice cream sandwich shape is built into a shock mount, but it's kind of hard to tell that it has a shock mount because of the way it's built. It's a really interesting design. It's like these two interlocking shapes that have just like a couple of millimeter air gap between them, and then elastics to absorb the shock. It does a pretty good job absorbing shocks. It's not the best shock absorber, but the trade-off, the positive trade-off is that there's nothing in front of the mic. So you can get this mic really, really close to things, whether it's somebody's face or whether it's a guitar amp. And so let's just bang on things and we can hear how it sounds. So I'm gonna tap on the microphone body first. All right, now I'm going to tap on the outside shell of the shock mount. And now I'm going to tap on the boom arm. So you can hear that. Some of that's transmitted through the air. Some of it's not completely absorbing the shock, but it's doing a pretty darn good job. Now, the Equitek E40 is priced roughly about the same as the Audio-Technica AT2020, and I tend to use that microphone as my standard comparison for budget microphones. So we're going to compare that in a moment. But before that, I want to compare the E40 to the Equitek E100SX because those are very, very different sounds. The E40 has a bright, open sound, whereas the 100SX has a much darker, richer sound. So it's very different. So let me get that set up. Now you're listening to the Equitek E100SX. Very different sound. I think much darker sound. I don't have the pop filter on, but let's put that pop filter on just so we can compare apples to apples. All right, pop filter engaged on the E100SX. By the way, this is the 4th generation of this microphone, just released last year. And so this is what the 100SX sounds like. Now you're listening to the Audio-Technica AT2020, and it does not come with a pop filter in the box either. I don't happen to have a pop filter handy, but I'm not going to do a plosive test, so that doesn't really matter. To my ears, the sound of the E40 has more in common with the Audio-Technica AT2020 than it does with its own sibling, the Equitek E100SX. Like the AT2020, the E40 has a very modern sound for a microphone. It's very bright, it's very airy, it's crisp. Now, does the E40 sound identical to the AT2020? Of course not, but it's in the same ballpark. And it's also in the same price range, so that's where we start to look at features, because you have a similar sound, but now the AT2020 has no switches. You cannot modify the sound whatsoever with the microphone. The E40, on the other hand, has a low roll-off if you need it, and it also has a pad, which means you can use it in louder situations. But the thing that I think really clinches it for the E40 is the shock mount. For this price range, most microphones don't have a shock mount. They just come with a microphone clip, including the AT2020. This microphone has a shock mount, and it's a really interesting and useful shock mount. And I do like the shape of this microphone. It's just unusual. The ice cream sandwich rectangle shape is cool. It stands out. It's not your typical microphone. Now, I did mention that the E40 is roughly the same price as the AT2020. However, of course, prices change on a regular basis. So I have some affiliate links in the video notes. Check them out if you want to see what the current prices are. Now, if instead you are looking for a more vintage microphone sound, something that's a little darker and richer, then you would definitely be interested in the review I recently did for the Equitek E100SX. And you can check it out right there.